Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, and I'm here in person with my co-host, Eddie Richard, as we got a lot of stuff to cover. We've got the Four Nations that went underway. We've got the Ducks road trip and some other stuff. The Ducks made a little trade and some other things going on with the team. But Eddie and I are here in person. I think this is the second time we've done it, Eddie?
Yeah, it feels good to actually look back and see you talking instead of just looking at a screen. And it feels kind of good. And you know what, Mike? Now I don't have to ask you what you're drinking because I can just look over there and see. So if you have your shooter, Mike?
Yes, I do.
Let's go ahead and open it from everybody and let's cheers it to the microphone and cheers it to ourselves.
There you go.
To a good show.
Having the Pink Whitney shooter, Eddie took it straight up. I took it with a Red Bull.
Yeah, I've been on the wagon since Sunday. Going to Vegas next weekend, so I've been dieting, trying to limit my alcohol because when I'm drink, I want to eat everything. So I want to drop a few pounds and look a little decent and look kind of fly when I go to Vegas next week. But other than that, Mike, nice seeing you in person. Nice seeing you. It's been a while. And how you been? Anything new?
No, I've been good. Just working. As you guys know, in the last show, I didn't probably sound my best. I was a little bit under the weather, but finally I'm back out of that and feeling better. So just trying to get back into the groove of things. We had that break, obviously, with the NHL and the Four Nations, so I watched that and we'll kind of dive into that to start the show. But I guess I don't know if we were really wrong, maybe, but we kind of talked about the Four Nations on the last show and we're skeptical, I guess.
I was critical.
Yeah, and then it was badass. I mean, I don't know what to say. There's so much to cover in there. You had the Tkachuk brothers going nuts in that first game against Canada. You had the 3 fights in the opening seconds. You had, obviously Team USA playing Team Canada in the Four Nations Championship, and they lost. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. It was, an exciting tournament. I really hope that they do this again. If not every year, maybe every couple of years.
Yes, I wanted to go and give a shout out and my condolences of rest in peace to the All-Star game because after this, it should never happen again. I was really critical. I thought it was going to be like basketball, the in-season tournament. But once I saw that first game, I quickly jumped on X and I let everyone know how wrong I was. And I always tell you guys on the show, when I say something, I like to be wrong. And I'll be the first one to admit to I was wrong. And at this Four Nations thing, I was definitely wrong. It was from start to finish some of the best hockey I've seen in years. I haven't seen this level of competitivity, physicality in a very long time. I think that U.S. and Canada, both games are probably equivalent, or if not better, than the Stanley Cup final, if I could say that myself. It was just a lot of emotion, a lot of tension, and best on best. It's just pride for their country, pride for that logo on the front. And they all respect each other. I know, this whole booing thing, all the fans and all the people that don't really understand what's going on, they just want to jump on the bandwagon to boo just for the hell of it. The players weren't feeling it. You had players from Canada saying don't boo. You had players from the United States saying don't boo. But you know what? They went out and showcased themselves. I watched that final game, Mike. I went to Hooters. Pretty good place over there on Rancho to watch the game. And I had other people that don't even follow hockey that were just coming to me, asking me questions about hockey, asking me if the games are always like this, how intense it is. A guy that, with his Raiders jersey on, I don't know why he was wearing his Raiders jersey on, but he was just talking to me about how he's never watched the game. It's his first time actually focusing and watching the game of hockey, just how competitive and physical this game was. But I hope they, like you said, I hope they do this more often. I know they're going to do the World Cup. I think 2 years from now. They have the Olympics coming up next year in Italy. That'd be kind of fun to go. So hopefully start a GoFundMe so you guys can send Mike and I over there. We can give you coverage from Italy. That'd be cool. Bring you guys some treats. But yeah, Mike, I have nothing but good things to say about it. It was great. I was on the edge of my feet watching it. I bought a USA jersey. Spent a little bit of money on that because I was so in the mix. The Tkachuk brothers. Oh man, like you mentioned 200 notes, the Bash brothers. Everyone calling them the Bash brothers, and that's just cool because I think this was the first time them actually playing with each other. And I think that was really cool to see. And I mean, Ducks fans know about the two Niedermayers playing with each other and how kind of inspiring that was, and kind of brought the best of each other out. I think that's what it did for the Tkachuk brothers. But Mike, that second or the first game against Canada, Canada and U.S., those 3 fights, like what was going through your mind when you saw that? Like the first one, it's like, okay, now you're getting going. The second one, it's like, okay, what's going on? And then 9 seconds later, the third one, I'm like, holy crap, this game's awesome. And USA set the whole tempo from there.
Yeah, I was watching the beginning and I saw the first puck drop and the fight went off, and I was like, oh my gosh, and my better half was just outside the room. I'm like, come in here, watch this. And so, she caught the first fight, and then she stepped out of the room again, and I called her back and said, no, there's another fight. And then she did it again and came back and said, oh, there's a third fight. I'm like, you gotta sit here and watch this game. Stop leaving. And that was crazy, seeing that with the Kachuk brothers, Miller in there. You had all those guys fighting, and USA ended up pulling out that game. But I thought it was crazy. And then there was a lot of banter too. They were talking about how they were in a group text thread, and they were talking about fighting, and then Team Canada was talking about them saying trash about them talking in it, and then they went back and forth like, oh well, you guys don't have a group text thread. And I just thought that was just funny, the rivalry in there between the two teams and everything. And for a international tournament that wasn't supposed to mean a lot, it did mean a lot. Like you said, I had a lot of people hit me up that necessarily don't watch hockey and were like, oh my god, like did you see that game with USA and Canada? Like, oh my god, there was these fights and this, that, and that. And I think that the big thing is that really grew the sport. And I liked it overall. I thought it was great. Yes, I wanted Team USA to win, but it wasn't like the end of the world for me. I know for some people it felt like it was one way or another, but it was just a good tournament all around. Leo Carlsson did play in it. He only played in one game, so I was a little bummed about that, but I think Team Sweden played well. It was interesting the way they did the points. Regulation wins were 3 points. Regulation loss was 0 points, so a little bit of a change there. Then you had the overtime, which was just like the NHL. If you win in overtime, you get 2 points. You lose, you get 1 point. I kind of like that format. It didn't really work well for Sweden, as obviously Canada came in second and played Team USA again. It's something that I know we've talked about maybe in the league, and maybe something they could look at. I don't know if they'll ever change it, but I do like that point system. I am a favorite. I thought everything was good. The only thing for me in the tournament is I wish that Leo Carlsson would have played a little bit more, Eddie.
Oh yeah, definitely. But like that one game showed a little spark, and we'll talk about when we go to break down these games. I want to touch on something you said, Mike. You said it grew the sport, and it did. You had everyone talking about it. Hockey was on the radar. The NBA had their All-Star game, and even the NBA analysts were like just kind of shitting on the whole NBA All-Stars and how sluggish they were, and kind of like they're nonchalant, whatever. Compared to this 4 nations, it just like absolutely destroyed them. I think one of the I forgot this one guy's name. He's a really popular sports analyst for NBA. Black guy. He's kind of bald. He always knows his opinion now, but he was just saying how the 4 nations tournament was better than the NBA All-Star game, and that's just like coming big from someone that's passionate about basketball, that's been commentating on basketball, been an analyst for many years, well respected in their league, and he's over here giving hockey the props, and it was just something that was so surreal. You had Jimmy Fallon too, speaking to Matthew Tkachuk and bringing that. I think the last hockey player that was on the Jimmy Fallon show was Henrik Lundqvist a long time ago. So it's actually good to see him bringing a non-New Yorker over there, because Jimmy Fallon's a big New York fan, so him having a Panther over there and talking about USA, it not only grew the game in the United States, not only grew the game in Canada, but I think it grew the game everywhere and all the other countries. I want to touch on Sweden. They were kind of a big surprise for me. I thought they were going to get blown out. That tic-tac-toe goal from McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon, that was just a thing of magic. That was just, wow. Like my jaw dropped on the floor, and for a split second, I forgot I was an American. I was a Canadian fan at that moment. But it was cool. They went up 2-0, but Sweden just had that resiliency, and they had that pride in their country and themselves. They didn't slow down. They didn't stop, and they kept fighting back. They didn't lose a game in regulation. I know they beat the U.S., but I know the U.S. they sat out a lot of their players, and kind of they had the medal game ready, so they didn't really go and try that hard. But still, Sweden put up a good fight. I think they had a good chance of actually being in the medal game and doing something, but. Like I said, I just want to reiterate again, Mike, that championship game went to overtime. Anything you wanted in a hockey game, you got. It sucks and it's unfortunate that Leo Carlsson did the short end of the stick. But I think come the Olympics next year, he's going to get a bigger look. He looks fantastic when he came back. I think he's like rejuvenated. He got to play with his fellow countrymen. Hopefully he got some tools from them to put in his toolbox and become a better player, well-rounded player. And he brings out with the Ducks and really has that motivation, that taste, that little sample size of what you can get from the Olympics next year, and really just turns it on and wants to earn his spot and play next year.
Yeah, and you talk about these games. The Ducks came out of that Four Nations. They went on a little road trip, and Leo Carlsson picked up his form. He had a couple goals in these games on the road trip. Kind of an interesting road trip. The Ducks went 1-1-1. They ended up beating the Bruins. They lost to Detroit. Both those games went to overtime, and then they lost to Buffalo basically in the third period. But I thought the game against the Bruins was pretty exciting coming out of the break. The Ducks played a good first period. They built a 2-0 lead. They ended up giving up a goal in a 5-on-3 power play in the second period. Little controversy in this game. Boston tied it up in the final minutes. A goal that they said was goal interference and was no goal, and they reviewed and gave it to them. One of the few times I kind of agreed with the refs, but it ended up going to overtime, and Leo Carlsson scored a beautiful goal there for the Ducks to win, and I thought it was good. Of course, Gibson got hurt again and left the third period with an upper body injury. Kind of an interesting thing. Post-game interview, Cronin said that it was a recurring issue, but that Gibson would be fine. And as you guys know, Dansk has been called up, and Gibson hasn't played in the last couple of games. So kind of some interesting stuff. We're not going to talk too much about trade stuff on this show. We're going to have another one close to the trade deadline. But I guess in two parts of this, Eddie, kind of what did you think about the Ducks-Bruins game coming out of it? And your thoughts on the Gibson thing, because now, of course, it's ramped up. A lot of people are saying, does this mean he's going to get traded? Kind of what's his status now? They brought up Dansk. The Ducks did also trade for Husso, which we'll talk about a little bit later, too, in this show. So it's kind of a lot to cover going on there. I'm throwing a lot at you, but however you want to break it down, what are your thoughts on that first game back from the Four Nations and then the Gibson issue?
Do you have a napkin? I think I'm bleeding right here a little bit, Mike. I'm trying to bite my lips so hard. I'm talking about trade talk. Trade talk, especially I'm looking at a player that I want to talk about next week. We're actually going to record our trade deadline show on Tuesday for you guys listening. It's for Thursday right now. We're going to go to watch the Vancouver Canucks play later. But I keep looking at Morgan Geekie, and I'll finish that. I don't want to get smacked in the face. Mike can actually reach me and hit me right now. But, Mike, I think that the Bruins are a struggling team, and I keep hinting this and throwing this out so many times. The Ducks need to capitalize on teams like this that are struggling. And the Ducks started off really well, and you thought I was going to be blown away. Like the Swayman is so up and down. It's just so crazy. But no, they come back, and it's kind of a nail biter. You think, okay, Ducks are going to just start this road trip bad. They're going to lose. But then here comes the hero. Like I said, he's rejuvenated. He comes up and scores his first goal in 9 games, like you looked up before the show. So like I said, hopefully this gives him a little fire under his ass, and he starts playing a lot better. But I guess overall it wasn't a bad game because they did take the win, but the struggling Bruins team, you have to really capitalize on struggling teams like this. You can't let them just kind of get that fire on you, and you have to really kind of just step on them when they're down. And the Ducks didn't do that. I think the Ducks just kind of, and it seemed like on this road trip too, and we'll talk about more of these games, they just kind of hold back at times. They're not really going for the kill.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, you had the Ducks, they came out really swinging good in the beginning of the period. You had Boston kind of counterpunch for a little bit. They didn't score, and the Ducks got those 2 goals late in the first period. And then we seen them get in penalty trouble, which is kind of a theme here. They were shorthanded 4 times in this game against Boston. They were shorthanded 4 times in the game against Detroit. They were getting killed in special teams in these 2 games. And you're right, that killer instinct wasn't there. They were holding on in the third period. Dostal came in for Gibson. Looked like the Ducks were going to win until that late goal in the final minute or 2 there of the contest. But you'd like to see them go get that third goal, get ahead by 2 goals and win. So I'm with you there too. I mean, I know a lot of people have been hyping up the Ducks and how they at one point were 6 points out of a playoff spot. They've fallen a little bit out of that after losing to Buffalo. In a big game against Vancouver, obviously, before we record this, as we record the show before the game. But, I still don't look at the Ducks as a playoff team. because of the way that these games have gone. You had a team like Boston, as you mentioned, the Ducks should have taken advantage of. And really, after they had that 2-0 lead in the first period, they should have added on to that. And they did not do that, which is problematic. And we'll get to the other games in a second. But the other question, too, is what's going on with John Gibson here? We had talked about Gibson having an upper body injury at the end of last season. We find out that he had that appendix issue. He had the surgery. You kind of thought that that was done. But now Corona comes out and say, hey, this has been an ongoing issue. So a lot of people, and we're not going to dive so much into the trade stuff until, like Eddie said, the next show. But I wonder if Corona kind of slipped and shouldn't have said anything, because to me, him saying that actually hurts Gibson's trade value. You're saying that your goalie has an ongoing issue. And we've seen this multiple times now where Gibson has come out at the beginning of the third period and Doug Stahl has had to come in and finish. So to me, it actually hurts Gibson's trade value, these comments by Cronin. Whether they're intentional or not, nobody knows what this injury is. He says, he'll be fine, but he hasn't played in the last couple games. I don't know. It's a very, very interesting thing that this has come up now, because we know that he's had groin issues on and off for the last couple seasons, and I wonder what this is. And we've talked about this too, because now I'm not saying the Ducks are doing this, but teams have talked about injuries. And the way the league is, they say upper body, lower body. It's very funny with hockey. They're very, very vague about their injuries. Where almost every other sport, they tell you, hey, the dude's got a broken ankle. Hey, the dude's, right arms or torn bicep, shoulder, whatever. So that was kind of the thing I thought was funny, was in the post game, seeing that. And, what are the Ducks going to do? I mean, they're going to ride Dostal. He's going to be the guy in the future. But that was the bigger takeaway, or two of them. I think what you said, Eddie, about them not having that killer instinct, and then now what do you do with John Gibson? He has a reoccurring injury. To me, that's a big blow to trying to trade him.
Yeah, I think Cronin, this is an example of your speaking before you think. That was the dumbest thing you could have ever said. I don't know if Verbeek came, took him in his office, grabbed a ruler, and smacked him across that shining head of his. Because that was the dumbest thing you can ever say, especially close to trade deadline. A reoccurring injury. You're just telling teams that, okay, well, you just lost value. I know Verbeek has a really high value on Gibson right now. He's asking for pretty much a haul on him. But same reoccurring issues. Now you're telling teams, okay, now there's an issue with him. Now if we trade for him, he passes our medical exam, but this issue might reoccur later on down the road. And now it's like our investment, what we're going to give up, is not going to really equal out to anything. I know there's teams, and we'll talk about that Tuesday, Mike, but I know there's a few teams that can use his services and that will overpay to get over that hump. One specific team that we'll talk about is desperately trying to get to that hump. They almost won the Stanley Cup already, and they want to end a drought since '93. But this thing just hurts the trade value a lot, and I think it was the dumbest thing he could have said. And if you had a time machine, I bet you if he had a time machine, or if he's looking back at this interview and he heard what he said, he's like, okay, I kind of screwed up. I shouldn't have said that. I should have kept my mouth shut. So, I mean, I guess it is what it is at this point. And you know what? Gibson's not in the lineup today either.
Nope.
So it's like, okay, so what's going on? You're not. I mean, at this point, I get it. You're going to be kind of hush hush because the trade deadline is. But when teams make trade, it's contingency that they can pass a physical exam, a medical exam. I know some teams can squeak by it. The Avalanche last season. The Avalanche traded Johansson, I want to say it was to Philadelphia, and I guess he was apparently dealing with some medical issues that they said that he was fine, but then when they dove down into it in Philly, he wasn't really fine, and he ended up just getting sent down, and it didn't really work out. But some GMs are like that. If you don't ask, they're not going to volunteer that information. But I think this is one of the things where you keep your mouth shut until the trade deadline, let Verbeek do his job, and not make it harder. And I think with Gibson, even just those 2 words that he said, I think it's going to be hard to trade Gibson at trade deadline. And if you do, you're not going to get the high value that you would have gotten from him if you didn't say this.
Yeah, I agree. I think he probably should have said, hey, it's a minor issue. He's going to be fine. But when you say recurring issue or reoccurring, however you want to word that, that means ongoing.
Yeah.
Now that opens a can of worms, because then it's like, okay, how long has that been going? And we don't know. So kind of interesting situation there. We'll have to see how that plays out in the next week as we lead up to the trade deadline. As Eddie said, we will have another show mainly talking about, leading up to that, go into more detail. So we're kind of holding off on that. We're just kind of talking about what's happened here lately.
I'm really trying to hold off on it too, Mike.
I know you are. We talked about it. We're going to do this in 2 parts. I don't want to. I wanted to keep the trade stuff to one show. But there was more controversy with the Ducks. You talked about the killer instinct. The Ducks played Detroit. They lost 5-4 in this game in overtime. They got down 3-0 in the first period. They were then down 4-1 in the second period. They were able to come back, get 2 goals with the goalie pulled in the third period, go to overtime. Patrick Kane wins it for them. But, the Ducks, the comeback kids in this one, I guess. They were down by, 3 goals 2 times, came back, got in penalty trouble again, big time in the first period. They were able to do that. But then the controversy in here is you had all kinds of dirty plays in this game. And there was a lot in this. It was funny because I posted some stuff on social media, on X, and got just attacked by Detroit Red Wings fans, which was hilarious because they did not like the hit by Zegras on Rasmussen. When you watched the game on Victory Plus, you didn't really you saw the hit from afar, but you didn't see it as bad. And then it was on another channel where you actually saw the hit. Zegras was not called for a penalty. It did have a hearing. It was reviewed. He was suspended for 3 games under NHL Rule 48, which we'll dive into a little bit. But you also had Sherratt that went after Vetrano at the end of the second period when the whistle was blown. He ended up getting 2 minutes for roughing, but nothing else happened. We will talk also about NHL Rule 21.1 match penalty on that as well. So there was just a lot going on. The Ducks ended up losing this game. They got a point, but I mean, these hits and everything going on, I was really not happy. Zegras, I'm not trying to be a homer at all. I know Eddie and I talk about stuff, and obviously we favor one of the Ducks. You look at the play, Zegras did hit Rasmussen high. It was late. NHL Rule 48. If you look it up on the internet, about a year or so ago, they did a video on this and explained it in detail. They talked about it being, hey, is the head the main point of contact, and was that contact avoidable? And obviously in this play, Rasmussen passes the puck. It's a couple seconds after the Zegras hits him, and he does. The majority of the contact is in the head. So I don't have a problem with that. I don't know about the number of games. It was 3. I think Eddie and I talked about it. We thought maybe it was 1 or 2. But you have these other plays like the Sherratt play, and nothing happens. So, there's a lot to dissect in this game too, Eddie. I didn't like how the Ducks started. They got behind. They got in penalty trouble again, which was kind of the theme of this road trip. But I have mixed feelings about these hits to the head and the way the league handles them. So what did you think about the game, and what did you think about these 2 controversial checks, if you will?
Yeah, the first thing I want to say is, like, with Detroit, their upper management did a really great job. They went from being a bottom feeder last year, missing the playoffs. They started the season shitty. Everyone thought, okay, it's gonna happen again. For some reason, they just made some good moves, good coaching, and their team's been thriving up there. They're a contender this year. I love the physicality of this game, especially against the Red Wings. Their original 6 team. They're one of the top revenue teams in the league. 65 hits this game. That just tells me if this keeps going on, and I wish these teams saw more of each other, Mike. I think that the way this game was, for some reason, this team just didn't like each other. I don't know. And the Zegras hit, Vetrano getting hit, I think that just adds fuel to the fire. I think this would be a good thing to if the Ducks and Red Wings would ever get that big rivalry, we could see an outdoor game or even a winter classic between these two. Because obviously it's not going to be for the Ducks, it's going to be for the Red Wings. But I liked it. I thought the Ducks were going to get smoked. I thought that those 3 goals in less than 10 minutes, 3-0. It's like, okay, this game's over. Like, holy crap! Are the Ducks finally coming back down to reality and stop living or flying above cloud 9? But I really was impressed. I want to say this is my favorite game of this road trip. They didn't back down. I guess they used all that physicality and what was going on in the game and filled their fire, and they didn't stop. Cutter had 2 goals. This is his second multi-goal game of the season. Just one shot of the hat trick again. Go figure, Mr. Showtime. Kane scored. I mean, I guess, Mike, if anyone's going to beat the Ducks, you prefer it going to be I guess he's going to go down as probably one of the greatest Americans to ever play the game. So it's kind of a treat, I guess, or kind of what's the thing I'm looking for? I forgot the words. I'll come back to it when I find it. But Yeah, Mike, this game was great. The hits, though. Okay, the Zegras one, yeah, we both agree. That was late, and it should have been something. Hit the first time offender, I've seen hits worse, and people get fines. I've seen other players get games. I guess they kind of pick and choose and pick favorites. Whoever brings in more revenue and those dips over there at the player safety, they're not really in the player safety. It's more like player dollars, I want to say, and what brings more revenue, because that's what it seems like. Giving 3 games is excessive. The Rasmussen's kid, he's a big kid. He's about 6'4", 6'5". So I want to say Zegras' shoulders is right above his face. It's like, I'm not saying that Zegras didn't mean to do it on purpose. I don't know. I wasn't I'm not his mentality, but a suspension or even a fine a 1-game suspension or a fine would have been worthy. But I think it was just kind of like, okay, well, Ducks are a lower market team. They're not going to bring that much revenue. Go and just give them 3 games so we could save face and say, hey, look, we're protecting players. And I think it was absolutely bullshit. And we've seen it throughout the season too, Mike. Other players that attack the Ducks are getting away with it. Blatantly attack the goalie, punching some guy in the head when he's on the floor. It's just crazy. Even the play that you noted too, at the end of the second, getting cross-checked from behind. It's like, that's intent to injure. That should be a match penalty. He should have been out of the game. But nope. They just kind of pick and choose what they want to do. The refs are just over there with the blindfolds on. It's insane how we go from Four Nations, how everything was just perfect. Even the officiating wasn't bad in the Four Nations, and we come back to this bullshit. It's just absolutely disgusting sometimes.
Yeah, the head check plays are very frustrating. I think the league did get it right with NHL Rule 48, where they talk about the head being the main point of contact and whether or not it's avoidable. I think it's right. It's a good rule. I think Eddie's also right that it's not always applied consistently as part of the problem. The other thing is the match penalty. You don't see this a lot during this game. Phil Hewlett and I were talking about this, and he posted on X, and I retweeted it about whether or not it should have been a match penalty for Sherratt. And if you look at the play, at the end of the second period, the whistle is blown. The puck's in the corner. Bertrand's more towards the net. Sherratt comes behind, gives like a forearm towards the upper back, shoulder area of Bertrand, maybe even the neck area. The head was not the primary point of contact on that, so I understand that. No hearing on that. I kind of get that, but at that point, why are you checking Bertrand? He doesn't have the puck. He's away from the play, and the whistle has blown for the end of the second period. If you look at Rule 21.1, it talks about any player who deliberately attempts to injure or deliberately injures an opponent in any manner. Why would you be giving a forearm check to someone up near their head when the period has ended? It's an unnecessary hit. So to me, I feel like the match penalty is underused in this league. You saw Patchell punch Minty in that last game against Calgary when he was laying on the ice. Minty crashed into the goalie. He then laid on the ice. Patchell was pissed off. He belts him right in the face, and nothing's called. There's no roughing penalty. There's no hearing. There's no match penalty. There's nothing. That kind of stuff, I just don't like it. Eddie and I, are big proponents of ice justice. We're big proponents of fighting, but it's fighting with a purpose. That's the thing that we talk about. It's not just going out there just to fight. There's a reason. Either someone took a run at your player, they laid a big hit, and you want to send a message back. And I get it. Sherratt wants to send a message because of the hit by Zegras. I don't know if he got confused because the 7s and the 1s look similar on the Ducks jerseys. I wrote that in the article about the suspension, so I don't know if he thought Frank the Tank was Z. I don't know. Maybe he went after the wrong guy. but here's the thing: that's not the time or place to do it. He should have waited till Zegras had the puck and tried to lay a big hit on him when he had the puck. So for me, the match penalty would have been the answer in that one. I don't think it should have been reviewed and been a suspension like some people think. But it's very frustrating. You talk about Department of Player Safety and protecting players from these head checks and things. And I understand Rule 48 with it being the main point of contact because a lot of, every game players are getting hit in the head. You're going to review these every single game if you're saying, oh, the guy got hit in the head. So I understand the primary point of contact. I get that. But these late checks after the whistle or rabbit punches or, punches like defensive players, to me, that stuff should not be tolerated in the league. And I wasn't really happy with the way that the officials went in that game in Detroit. I get it. Like Eddie and I said, the stuff against Zegras, it is what it is. But I really think this is something the league needs to look at, down the road, Eddie.
Exactly, and you brought up a good point too about ice justice. I agree. Sherrod, even though as a Ducks fan it was a bullshit play, it was stupid, it was dumb. Like you're a pussy for hitting someone from behind that vulnerable. But you know what? He was protecting a player. That's something the Ducks haven't done. And he gets 2 minutes for it, and then you had Troy Terry come in and protect him. Like Troy Terry, our top player, goes in and has to get a penalty. Gudis, where are you? Johnston, where are you? Leeson, where are you? Like, and then third period, nothing happens to him. Everyone just kind of just shakes his hand, skates away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, I'll keep saying this statement until the end of the podcast or end of the season. The Ducks are one of the weakest and softest teams in the league. Them and Buffalo. I think there's a tie between them. It's like we see this game after game. I think that C should be ripped off of Gudis' chest because he's not playing the damn same. Your job is, yes, you're a leadership. You have to lead on and off the ice. But when things happen like that, don't forget the player you are. Stop trying to be a player you're not. Like it makes no sense to me. You should have been out there like Brady Tkachuk or Matthew Tkachuk would have done and whooped that guy's ass. Hey, you know what? We're going. You want to take a run by a player? Yes, you're protecting your player. I respect that. Now I'm protecting mine. Let's beef it out, and it's all done. It's all squashed away. But nope, he just wants to skate away. And I don't know who he's trying to be, Quentin Hughes or Cale McCarr. You're not. You're Gudis. You're not. You're barely a top four. Let's be honest and put it that way. You're a good leader, and I love you as a player, and you're probably one of my top players. Mike, I'm probably not going to be invited to your house anymore once your better half hears this, but it had to be said. No one's going after him. There's one penalty in the third, and nothing. It's like I don't even think they try to bump Sherrod. Just let him go and let him do what he wants to do, and it's just been disgusting. And I've been bitching about this from the start of the season, how these players aren't doing anything to back him up, and it's bullshit that Terry has to go and have to go and try to do it. Terry's not a fighter. Look what happened in Arizona a couple seasons ago when he tried to defend one of his players. He got his ass kicked, and that's not fair to him. That's not his job. His job's to score goals, help the team win, and I don't know. I think something needs to be done. Like I said, I'll stand by my statements, and I apologize if this hurts people's feelings, but I think that scene needs to go. He's not worthy of it. His game style it's really affecting him, and I think it's not, just go back. As much as I hate it, go back to 3As.
Yeah, that was a big mic drop, man, when you talked about Gudis. And I was cracking up because that's been something that some people haven't talked about, right? They've been talking about the problems on the blue line, scratching the younger players. We've talked about it. You've been dealing with Zellweger, Hellison, and Minty and all that issues. They, did scratch Gudis one game because he was sick. But you're right. When I watched the Four Nations and I saw Matthew and Brady Tkachuk, I thought, you know what? We have tons of cap space coming up this summer. Yes, there's some RFAs and things we need to clean up. But to me, if I'm Verbeek and you want a team that's tough to play against, I go out and get both of those guys. And I put both those guys on the Ducks, Matthew and Brady Tkachuk, and you rock and roll. They talk about the Bass Brothers and Mighty Ducks. Let's make the real Bass Brothers and the Anaheim Ducks. Bring those two guys on the team, and let's roll. Like, right, Eddie and I joke, because in fantasy hockey, I've had Brady Tkachuk on my team the last couple of years, and I love that dude. He kicks ass. That guy does everything. He scores, he gets assists, he fights, he defends. Yes, he did hit Carlson in the Four Nations and gave him a pretty big bump, and I know people didn't like that, but and I don't either because it's Carlson, but that's what the Ducks need. They need guys like that. And you're right. You had this stuff go down at the end of the second period against Detroit. The Ducks did rally, fight back, and score, which was fantastic. They did not lay down and die. They pulled the goalie and got those two scores and came back. But there's, like you said, Leeson, Johnston, Gudis. I mean, come on, guys. This guy took a run after Toronto did a deep, dirty shot. Terry gets in there and gets a penalty, too. Terry should not be the last. He's probably the last guy that should be fighting anybody on this team, and that's the frustrating thing too. Is you need guys like that, and that's what Verbeek kept harping on. Hey, we need to be tough to play against. Well, let's go get some guys that are tough to play against. Get a Matthew and Brady Tkachuk. Get those guys. So it's very frustrating. And then, like you talked about against Buffalo, the way that both teams played, kind of the bottom of the barrel. The Ducks had played them too. They again built a 2-0 lead like they did against Boston, And then they choked in the third period and got steamrolled in that third period. Gave up 3 goals, looked like dog shit in the third period. Could not get anything done. Ended up losing that game 3-2. Just a terrible loss in there. But that's why, I look at these, we had questions from the Mighty Jerseys. If the Ducks were to make the playoffs, would they be a great threat in the first round? No, they won't be a great threat. We had Lou Ensign also asked, do we think the Ducks can make the playoffs? At the time, they asked about them being 7 points back. They're more than that. But I don't think so. I don't think they can make the playoffs. If you look at these last 3 games, they should have beat Boston. They should have beat Buffalo, even with their terrible 5-on-5 play. And Detroit, yes, they came back and got a point, but I think the Ducks should have won 2 out of 3 of these games, but they did not play like that. And yes, Zegras was out in that game against Buffalo. I get it, with that stuff that happened in Detroit. But, a lot of you guys have asked us questions about the playoffs. I wouldn't worry about the playoffs. This team still is a work in progress. And what I saw in these 3 games, it was a mixed bag. I think that, yes, they beat Boston. They did show the comeback kids in Detroit. But Buffalo, they played like crap. The only thing that went good against Buffalo is they actually scored on the power play a couple times, which the power play has been terrible. But, if you're looking overall at what's going on with this team, I don't see them still there. They need to get some people. And we're going to hold off because, like I said, Eddie and I are going to talk about the trade deadline in the next show. I threw out the Kachuk brothers, which I highly doubt they're going to be traded to the Ducks. But I'm just saying those are the type of players that the Ducks need to go after, and I'll hold that off. But any other thoughts about these 3 games and the road trip, Eddie, before we kind of dive into a couple other issues with the team?
Well, my pants got a little tighter. You mentioned Brady Kachuk and Matthew Kachuk, so I'm like, whoa. Brady, number 2 in penalty minutes in the whole entire league, and he still puts up the numbers and produces. That guy, I always keep telling you, physicality, it makes you think twice. Like, I played hockey. I'm sure, okay, you play a physical sport, whoever's listening, that physical sport, there's always that one guy in the opposing team, like, okay, stay away from him. I'm going to get hit. It kind of, like, limits you. You're on thin ice. And if you guys don't play sports, think of your work, your cubicle, and that one boss that you don't want to piss off, and you say something wrong, and he's going to scream at you. He's going to make you work more. You're on thin ice. That's exactly what it is. Having players like that on the ice, it makes teams think twice. Makes other players, the star players, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't cut in like that. I'm going to get hit. Maybe I shouldn't go and cross-check someone in the back of the neck. I'm going to get taken care of. No. It's just, there's no accountability for what happens when you attack the Ducks players. And same with the Buffalo Sabres, when they knocked out their Tage Thompson, no one did anything. Just kind of skated around, and I don't know what's going on. But, yeah, I'm not going to go too much into the Buffalo Sabres. So I don't want to get too pissed off before we go to the game. I think we can all agree that was just a horrible game. Even this team, they should have just destroyed, but they kind of just gave Buffalo their little, I guess their kudos for the night. Maybe the Ducks went out and had too many Buffalo Wild Wings or something over there. But, yeah, this game was just bad, so we can just kind of move past this. And hopefully tonight, Mike, hopefully all I care about right now, my selfish ways, is getting a win against Vancouver. Not because of the point, not for anything, but I want to have a win with my buddy and drive home happy after a Ducks win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got a couple more topics. I just want to go over, DraftKings again real quick, and we'll dive into some stuff that kind of pertains to the team. It might be taken with a grain of salt, but we'll dive into it. But before I do that, it might not feel like it, but spring is right around the corner. Know how you can tell? Golfers are hitting the links, and we have some tournaments to talk about. If you want to do more than just talk, put your money where your mouth is. Get in all the tee to green action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Check out 800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPNY or text HOPNY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus age and eligibility required by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 100 68 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming, see dkng.com/audio. All right, with that, Eddie's talking about the team and the things that are going on and being playoff team, being contending team, having that grit, all that stuff. We've talked a lot about that on this show. And so it's kind of interesting. The Athletic put out a poll, and they talked about the Ducks front office, the office management. They talked about the owners too as well. And this poll was only 19 hockey agents. So some people take it with a grain of salt. But I like this poll because a lot of you are frustrated with head coach Greg Cronin. But I don't hear as many people talk about the GM, Verbeek, or talk about the owners, the Samuelis. And that's something that I like about this poll. It sheds a light on that. Like I said, it's 19 hockey agents. You can take it for whatever you think it is. You want to flush this and put it down the toilet, go for it. Some of you on Instagram told me that this was a bullshit poll and, it doesn't mean anything. And that's fine. Go for it. I have mixed feelings about this poll, but I liked it because they talked about who is the most unstable or poorly run franchise amongst hockey agents. Anaheim was voted second. Also, the worst front office to deal with, Anaheim was voted the worst. They did get one vote for being the best, but there you go. They also had the worst owner in the league. Henry Samueli voted fourth worst. He did get one vote for being the best owner. So some of the things that were talked about in here and I like that were interesting is from the agents. They said the Ducks are not run well enough and are so difficult to deal with. Some stuff against Verbeek. He said that he's cranky, runs the show himself. Jeff Solomon is a grinder. They also talked about Verbeek being ridiculous and drawing a line in the sand and sticking to things. And they also talked about nickel and diming on entry-level contracts, which we saw that with Drysdale and Zegras when they were trying to work out their contracts. So it's some interesting stuff here, and that's what I think is part of this problem. We're talking about this team. We're talking about them being inconsistent, not winning the games they need to, not being a playoff competitor. Yes, we can talk about Cronin all day and all night. But what did you think about this poll, Eddie? I mean, they talked about Verbeek and Samueli, which I feel like a lot of fans, they don't really talk about them. They tend to just focus on the coach.
I think that one agent that said they were the best to deal with is probably Husso's agent. Phil's in that trade. But, yeah, you know what? The whole poorly run franchise, I think we can speak for it. Like, we can see the product on the ice and how things are done. We can even see things that go around the arena that I don't like, even personal stuff with staff and stuff. I think that all that kind of, I know this is an agent speaking, but I'm just saying for what I see as a fan when I go to games, when I watch, I can only imagine what happens in the front office. So I can kind of, for what I see, I can probably agree with that statement. The owners too, I mentioned so many times, the owners just kind of seem just like they want to just own a team to be that spotlight, signing autographs. Like, who the hell wants to get like autograph from an owner? That's like crazy. I own my own business. Mike, you want my autograph? Like, holy crap! That's just like, that's crazy to me to see. I don't know. Like I mentioned too on our previous show, we changed coaches, we changed GMs, we changed captaincy, we changed players. We've made multiple front office changes. It's still not working. Like maybe it's time to have an ownership change. I hear that AJ Galante is available. I remember back in the day when, as a 17, 18-year-old kid, had that Trashers team, and he just ran it like the WWE. Maybe bringing someone like that, I would love to see him manage the Ducks and be the owner of the Ducks. He would just turn his whole franchise around. Hey, you know what? First year we might get a Winter Classic and a Stanley Cup. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this and I do take it with a grain of salt, but yeah, I mean, Verbeek is tough. We know that. We've seen that in these couple contracts that he's done with Zegras and Drysdale. We've heard Elliot Freeman talk about some of these things as well. I think the interesting thing about the owners was one agent said the lack of involvement with the owners. And I've talked about this. I think the owners do, it's a great job doing the rebrand. I thought they did fantastic. I loved it. I mean, we do talk about we won a third jersey with the original colors. That is one thing that we have kind of harped on. But I like that. I do like the OC vibe. They're building it up. They're making it, a competitive thing. I guess kind of to rival LA Live, or other type of downtown and facilities and things like that. I think it's great. You mentioned, LA's going to have the All-Star game
That's right.
Or I'm
that's
sorry,
right.
not the All-Star game, the draft.
No, draft.
The draft. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. They're going to have the draft next year. So, it's something that I'd like to see the Ducks have if they're going to have the draft. Outdoor game, yes, which there was hints of that. There was a report out there that the league is looking at having some kind of outdoor game in SoCal. I would love to see the Ducks play. I don't really care anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me. I'd like to see that. So I think from a financial standpoint, in the community aspect, I do think the Samiolis do a great job. But in terms of the product on the ice, which a lot of you have said, you're not happy with it. And that's kind of where the problem lies. The other issue, too, is I think the Ducks kind of got screwed with the injury situation. We talked about Gibson earlier, and they went out and traded your favorite player, Eddie.
Oh, man.
Future considerations to Detroit for Ville Husso, who did have a shutout in San Diego, the first shutout for a goalie debut, which was awesome. But he's had a rough time. I mean, in Detroit, he had a 3.69 goals against, 8.66 save percentage in 9 games in Detroit. Then played a lot in the AHL this season. Again, this was a move that they had to make because of the injuries. You had Susek out for a while. Klangs, now they don't know when he's going to come back. Butites is up in San Diego. They had nobody in San Diego but him, so they had to make some moves. So they did this, but then I feel like Verbeek did his boy Yzerman a deal here because the Ducks took on this guy for depth, but it's $6.5 million cap hit for the team. Kind of interesting. The Ducks have about $16 million at the trade line per Puckpedia, and I don't know. I mean, this was kind of a questionable move. I think they had to do it because of the injuries that they had and everything. But now you're bringing in this guy, and yeah, he had that great first game against the Wranglers in the AHL, and I'm not against that. But there's a lot of things that they got to figure out here with the goalie situation. And like we talked about earlier in the show, that Cronin made those comments about Gibson having these injuries. You had Danska. You have no one in the AHL. You have to bring Butites up from Tulsa. Now you bring in Husso. I don't know. And I'm really curious to see who future considerations is going to be. Is it going to be a prospect or a draft player? Because that's usually who it's going to have to be. And this is the problem that I have with the owners. I feel like, when it comes to putting a winning product on the ice, I just don't feel like they're doing it. Because if you think about the Ducks, when they won the Stanley Cup, they won it in 2007. The Samuels took over right before that. But we all know that team was built by Brian Burke. That was not built by the Samuels.
The best GM.
Yes, and that was why that team was put together with Pronger, Solani, Niedermeyer, all those guys. You had Perry, Boschman. You had Getzlaff. Getzlaff and Perry on the fourth line that year. I mean, just crazy. That team was built, but it wasn't built by them. So when that poll came out and they said, well, there's lack of involvement by the owners, that's what I feel. I feel there is lack of involvement by the owners. Like I said, I don't disagree with a lot of stuff they're doing. I think they do a lot of great things. But this stuff here, they're not. And for being a hard ass, I feel like that's, I feel like it's kind of a mixed bag. You don't want these hockey agents to run over your GM and get away with murder and things like that. So I think that's good. But there's also times where you need to work stuff out. Like I go back to the Drysdale Zegras thing. You're fighting hard with these contracts. The guys miss training camp for a good portion to come later. I mean, to me, you got to look at the big picture and not just the little details. And I feel like the team as a whole, when I look at this poll with the Athletic, and I know some people, jar it, and it's 19 hockey agents. I think the poll is actually somewhat true, and I think that what's going on with this team is not where we need to be. And I know a lot of people point across the street and yell at Art Moreno and all the shit going on with the Anaheim Angels. And yes, it's the Anaheim Angels. It's not the LA Angels. You can go fuck yourself if you call them the LA Angels. It's either Anaheim Angels or California Angels. I'm sorry. He is horrible. But the Samuels, to me, yeah, they're better, but they're not great. There's some work that needs to be done here with this team. And being those passive owners isn't going to get this team back to where we were in 2007, Eddie.
Oh, no, definitely not. I can't see that at all. And I think the Samuels are great people. I think they're great business owners. And during the COVID stuff, they still paid their employees. That's something. They were the first team. I think the first major sports team to actually do that and went out and from the bottom of our hearts. I remember I broke that story like at I think 11 at night, Mike, and you're like, "Oh, did you verify?" I'm like, "Yeah, I definitely did." Like, I'm not gonna post something, and that blew up. But I don't think they're a sports owners. I don't think they're good. They don't know what to do. I think that they're more for the employees, which is great, and I love that. I love the fact that they put their employees first, as they should, and they're really great people. I'm not knocking on them for that. I just the lack of involvement and what's not going on. And so yeah, some people are saying, oh, only 19 sports agents. They talk to each other. They all have different stories. They all have different teams. Hundreds of them. They all know each other. It's a small hockey community, just like all the broadcasters, all the analysts. They all know each other. They know what's going on. They know all the gossip, the drama. So it's not just the 19 that were going there and talking about it to the Athletic. There's probably coming from a lot of it's 19 prior, speaking for hundreds of other ones too. So we can't just sit there and say it's just 19. But I do like Mike. I do like you brought up Verbeek. He's hard nosed. I kind of liked him not just caving in and just giving in on things. But then on the flip side, he's not bringing assets back. You're getting a Husso, which I want to say he's he's pretty fly for a Gulls goalie guy. Offspring, yeah. We're going to watch Offspring tonight too. But so Detroit gives Wallman to San Jose and takes the whole contract, but then they're paying San Jose more to take the contract. We're taking this contract for future considerations. Yeah, yet, like you said, we don't know what's going on about it. But if it's going to be a draft pick or a player, why not just trade the player and say it? Why not just throw it out? Like, I don't know the logic of it. Of bringing on a contract or not. And this isn't the first time that Ducks did something like this. They could, like Trouba. The Rangers could have just shot over something else for us to retain Trouba, but they didn't. Like, I don't know why Ducks aren't utilizing that. They have the cap space. I really hope come the trade deadline, especially when we start talking about the whole Mikko Rantanen drama, I hope the Ducks are kind of in a mix to absorb contracts and be that third party and get some assets. And trade deadline too. Teams are going to overpay, Mike. They're going to pay an arm and a leg so you can actually get something. I don't want Verbeek just taking a contract for a ninth round pick, which they don't even do anymore. Like, I don't know. He has to do something. But some of these things of taking full on contracts and not really getting more assets is the only thing that pisses me off. I'm glad he draws the line on certain players and not like undervaluing them and really waiting to get the most value. But I don't know. Like you said, Mike, you said it 2 shows ago. This is going to be one of the most important trade deadlines of the Ducks. I'm looking forward to talk about it on Tuesday more. But this whole thing, like I said, these 19 agents speak for a lot of others, so it's not just 19.
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't take it with a grain of salt. Like you said, they talk, and I do like that the Athletic talk to the agents because as they talked about, you talk to the players are only going to say so much.
Yep.
Right? They're not going to say, as much because they're playing for the team and whatnot. So you have all that in there. So I like the fact that this focused on the GM and the league. There was other questions the league in general as well, and the owners too. So I like what I saw, in there. And I'm with you, Eddie, too. I'm not against Verbeek. I think being a hard ass does work in most situations, so I do like that. But I feel like the owners just kind of like let Verbeek just do whatever. And I'm not saying there's different ways to lead things. You can be a micromanager. You can be a laissez-faire and hands-off. I think you need to find somewhere in the middle. And I feel like I just feel like the owners are a little bit, when it comes to the product on the ice, they're a little bit too far removed. But
stop signing autographs. Stop asking for autographs from an owner. Come on, guys. Ducks fans, I see that so many times. I ran into the owners too, and I don't know. I don't see why ask for the autograph. It's just like I know a lot of the new generation wants to do things for clout and you see it like a lot of on social media. People will dress up and act like someone famous, and all these idiots will come up to them. Oh yeah, I seen you in this movie, and it's just like, wow, it's pure stupidity. Just leave that alone. Leave them alone. Let them go and take care of the employees, enjoy the game, and do nothing else to help the Ducks. But just leave them alone.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And another part of it that a lot of people, actually, I don't think I've seen many people talk about it, but I am in a Facebook group with a lot of season ticket holders. And the Ducks really dropped the ball. If you haven't heard, the season ticket holder prices have gone up. And there was an email sent out to all of us saying that, hey, next year you're going to get parking with your ticket. It's going to be great. You hit the renewal button to go to that page, and then you see the price increase. And nobody's got any answers on this. I talked to my ticket holder person. I talked to other season ticket holders, other fans, people in the organization and whatnot. And the new deal is this: next season, whether you're a season ticket holder or not, your tickets will include free parking, any lot, the structure when it's done. And it sounds great. You're like, okay, that's awesome, cool. But the thing is the Ducks never told us that our tickets were going up. So for me, I live in, I do live at the Honda Center, but I have tickets in the 400s, and my tickets went up almost $1,000. I have 2 tickets. So almost every season ticket holder's tickets went up unless they had some kind of a parking plan. Then it sounds like they broke even from some of the ones I talked to, or maybe even a little bit less. But most people, their tickets went up because of these parking that was included. And it's kind of a weird thing. They're telling you, hey, if you have a season ticket, every season ticket you get is a parking space, which, okay, that's kind of cool. But if you have 4 tickets and you go with a family, you don't need 4 spaces, you need 1. If you share the tickets, okay, maybe you need 2 spaces. But, they put this out there. They didn't explain anything. And also, for those of you that have called or emailed your ticket people and got mad at them, it's not their fault. The people above them did not relay the complete message, other than the prices were going up for parking and that parking was going to be included. And that there's no way to opt out of this, which is very, very frustrating because I don't park at Honda Center. I haven't parked at Honda Center probably in the late 90s, Eddie, or the early 2000s. I park at off-site parking lots. So it's very frustrating that I get what they're doing. There's been frustration with the parking this season. You all know that. It's been a pain with the closed parking, trying to build the structure, all the things going on. So I do think that the intent was good to try to add the parking in there and not have it be an issue. But they never told us how much it's going to cost or what the deal is. I had to call a bunch of people, email people, contact people, and figure out what's going on. And the lack of transparency on there is horrible. And I think that ticket holders should have an option. If you want the parking plan, cool. If you don't, you should be able to opt out. I don't like the fact that hasn't worked. I'm still going to renew my tickets because that's just the way I am. But I can tell you right now, there's a bunch of people that aren't going to renew their tickets because of this increase in cost. Part of it's the cost, but part of it is the owners didn't convey this to us. And just for the record, I already knew the tickets were going to go up, and most of you knew that too because, inflation. But you knew with OC Vibe being built, the tickets were going to go up. I mean, you're stupid not to think the tickets were going to go up. But for the team to not come out and tell you, they sent out an email like, oh, hey, guys, you're going to get parking with your tickets. And you're like, okay, cool. And you go to renew it, and then you see the price increase. It's like, really? I understand why it happened, but I just think the way the Ducks went about it, Eddie, was completely horrible. And you know what? I know there'll be some people that will listen to this and be like, oh, Mike, but you know what? It's not the employee's fault. The ticket reps, a lot of the people that work for the Ducks, they do a fantastic, awesome job. They do. They do a great job for the Ducks. I'm not knocking all those hardworking employees for the team, but the higher-ups of the organization, you guys did a poor job of conveying this message. There's a lot of people that are upset and are going to cancel their tickets. And you guys should have been more upfront to begin with, and that's just bad on you.
Yeah, and you know what? Other teams go and communicate to their season ticket holders what's going on. Hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Just give them a heads up by just doing it and kind of just like you dropped it, I'll drop it, like a fuck you to you guys. Like, fuck you guys, season ticket holders. If you just a quick search real quick, if you guys want to complain maybe, Joe Barrett is the operations manager for the Anaheim Ducks. I'm pretty sure if he's the operations manager, he's probably has some say in it. So I'd blow him up. But like I said, Mike, it's not fair. You have 4 tickets. Let's say you have a mother, father, 2 kids. You're charging the kids for parking? Like, that's just crazy. It's nonsense. And I've had my issues with Honda Center, especially with the security and how they run things. Like I said, Mike, all the ushers, the food service staff, they're all great. But I think Honda Center has a lot of work to do. I guess this is I could say a poorly ran franchise. Maybe the agents have that experience too. It's just I've had a lot of negative experience with Honda Center, and that's why I wouldn't get season tickets anymore. Even if I lived close enough to do it, I'll just buy from third parties and still paying for the tickets, but still, it's just kind of my protest on that. But I think it's not fair to all the season ticket holders that are going to renew their tickets not knowing the outcome of what's going to happen with the Ducks next season, if they're even going to be competitive, if they have a step back, which we've seen the Ducks do, and they end up going dead last again. And it just kind of sucks that all the fans that have been supporting the team through all these dark days and all the excuses that we heard about them going to be competitive and nothing's happening and Ducks are the same. And you're just kind of just, oh, well, you know what? Click this link, $1,000 your tickets are increasing. And that's it. No explanation. And you know what? Either you take them or not. So I hope they lose a lot of season ticket holders because of this reason. And those that are going to opt out and not do it, good for you. I think you should take a stand, and you shouldn't let them kind of just bully you. And just because you have a passion and love for the team and love for, let's say, the ushers or certain bartenders you do have, let them kind of just dictate that and do that. So, and like you said, Mike, we're paying, or actually I'm not paying, you're paying a season ticket holder as far as all you guys too are paying for this OC Vibe thing too. And are you going to get rewarded for it? No. When OC Vibe really hits, tickets are going to increase. And I'm pretty sure they're going to get a draft. I'm pretty sure we're getting an outdoor game, and it's all going to increase the sales. And who knows, maybe at that time the Ducks will probably be barely getting a wild card spot. If not, it's more excuses, and who knows what they're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue. It's, if they would have come out and sent an email saying, hey, listen, we're including parking, we're building the OC Vibe, it's going to cost a little bit more, would people still be upset? Absolutely. There's going to be people that are going to be upset. But at least you were upfront with us.
Yeah.
You weren't upfront with the season ticket holders. You made this flowery email about, oh my gosh, you're going to get parking, it's included. Guys, I haven't been parking at Honda Center probably since 1998 or 99. I don't know. I don't park at Honda Center. I park at other lots that are cheaper or, more discounted rates, or, would carpool with people or Uber or Lyft. I don't park. I honestly cannot tell you the last time I parked at Honda Center unless I got a parking pass from somebody. I don't park there. And again, I do think the intent was right behind it because they're trying to fix the parking situation, but you don't tell anybody. And then there's people going off, and there's a certain employee with the Ducks, I won't mention his name, but they're asking him questions, and he's just giving, cardboard cookie cutter answers to season ticket holders. And I don't even bother talking to this guy because I've talked to him before, and he doesn't help out. And I don't want to mention his name because, I don't want to single out anybody. And it may be not even his fault either. Maybe it's people above him. But just the lack of being upfront, a lot of people, I can tell you right now, with the Ducks are not happy. And you can see this on social media. No one's really talking about this. I don't know why, other than this private group that I'm in. It's kind of frustrating, Like I said, I'm still going to renew my tickets. I'm fortunate. I have a decent financial situation. I'm able to do it. But, I don't know. After next season, I don't know if I will after that. If they raise it again after this, yeah. And the big thing is the product on the ice. In the beginning of the season, there were some of you out there that said, hey, new jerseys, new logo, that's cool, but we need a better product on the ice. You're going to raise prices, not explain to us why, and the product still hasn't gotten that much better. We've talked about that. Yes, the Ducks are closer to the playoff season, but if you look at all the numbers, the analytics, and the stats, they're really not that much better than last season. Maybe a little bit in some areas. We talked about that. They had gotten better than penalty kill, though this last stretch of a couple games was kind of bad. So, just trying to keep it real with you guys. We talk about the games, the players a lot, but we like to talk about the organization and things that are going on there that affect you as well. So next season, the ticket prices will go up. You will, if you're just buying a ticket to the game, it will work out for you because you will have a parking spot. So that's great for you. But I feel like the season tickets holders got a short end of the stick, Eddie. And I'll kind of wrap up the show. If you got any final thoughts before we close this out, and then next week we'll do the actual trade deadline.
I wanted to go back and talk about the owners. Maybe you guys can, when you see them going to the games next season, see if they'll sign your validation ticket for parking. You get that for free. I mean, that's the only thing I have. I could jump into some league news, Mike, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Which I want to talk about Alexander Ovechkin. He came back from the Four Nations, scored a hat trick. He's just on fire. 39 years old, and he's just not slowing down. he started off slow in the season. People were doubting him. So it's going to take 2 or 3 seasons. He's 12 goals away from breaking Gretzky's record, and I think it's going to happen this season. I know the Ducks play him, I want to say, in about 6 or 7 games. I am a couple weeks on a Tuesday. It's possible he can get that record right there. I'll be at the game because I want to just see him. I want to see him at least score. Yeah, cheering for Alexander Ovechkin to score against the Ducks, but I'll take that. That's part of history. I really hope that's the game. And I'll probably buy my tickets probably soon just in case that he's like at 1 goal away when he plays the Ducks. But it's going to happen this season. It's good. I know Gretzky is really encouraging to him. Ovechkin's talked about Gretzky texting him and encouraging him to break his record. And we're witnessing history, and Alexander Ovechkin is going to go down. It is right now, even right now, still playing. Is the greatest, one of the greatest hockey players to ever lace them up, and he even still gets so excited. You watch him score, watch his games. He acts like he scored a first goal again, and he's had so many amazing goals from the behind the back goals, the celebrations with the stick. It's just so good to see. So I want to give him a shout out and kudos to that. I don't know if you want to talk about anything with Ovechkin, or we can move on to the next one.
No, yeah, Ovechkin, what he's done has been amazing, and I think what's even cooler about that too is that Wayne Gretzky has been encouraging too. You know, you could sit there and have sour grapes and be upset that someone's going to break your record, but Gretzky's been a class act with Ovechkin's pursuit of his record.
Oh yeah, it's just crazy, and I hope people aren't going to get mad because he's Russian. Oh well, I'll deal with it. But yeah, so moving on to the Columbus Blue Jackets. You know what? Good for them. They've been putting bottom of the barrel. They're kind of nicking at the wild card playoff spot, so good. But the whole big news for them is they had Johnny Gaudreau's son, Johnny Gaudreau Jr., in attendance with his wife. The whole crowd was singing happy birthday to him. Oh my God, that's an emotional thing to see. That kid's going to just remember that, how much love everyone had for his father. It sucks that his father got taken too soon. And you know what sucks too, Mike? No, I'll skip that. I don't want to ruin this nice moment, but yeah, I think that was one of the best things, and it makes you proud to be a hockey fan no matter what you see, and all the controversy that happened with the U.S., Canada, and the booing stuff, all that negativity, it drowns out when you see stories like this. For every 50 bad stories you hear about hockey, this drowns everything out, and I think the hockey world is so lucky to be one tight-knit community, and I think that no matter what team you cheer for or fan, if something happens like this, you're going to be there and sing too, because the whole arena was singing, both teams from both fans, and that was just one, and it was really emotional. And that kid, when he grows up and sees the love that everyone had for his father, he's gonna just have a smile on his face and hopefully kind of just do the best he can to really make his dad proud from heaven.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just a sad story in general, and it's been a season where they've been honoring Johnny Hockey and his brother too. So I mean, it's just. Just thoughts and prayers to them, and they've been an inspiration for Team USA and hockey in general this season. Yeah,
you said the best. So in other news, Mike, you ready to go see that Vancouver game today?
Yeah. We'll record this before the game. It'll probably be posted after, so we will see what happens, and then we will be back in a few days, and we'll probably have a podcast mainly about the trade stuff. We have a lot of stuff that we held off on this show because we wanted to cover all this stuff. Appreciate you guys listening, and we'll be back in a few days. Let's go Ducks!